Oh, the agony. I did it again. Spent all night rhyming without a friend to tell it to. The tortures of my heart stated, and I had felt it was a good song through and through. You baited too, since I couldn't sleep. Oh fuck. Even I felt I was kind of showing off, like I'm finished writing the thing in the tow truck, and even maybe record it. Fuck. Didn't even take a minute to push save. Maybe it was a hostile minds at the library, so I'm back in my cave and I find I wasn't high on caffeine. Let me voodoo it out of my reach. Oh well, I gotta move on, I beseech you. Plus, God wants to help, and I'm trying not to destroy myself, but I've been thinking of many other things, and I'm asking, don't take it personal, because it's the way I am with everything. Started off, there was this Chinese standard or an Indian of what a person ought to be like if you're not hustling. They look down on Americans, right? All this personality is disgusting. So lately it's been popular to tattoo one's face. Like I'll never be part of the corporate entity you make. But for Pete's sakes, rarely are beautiful girls rarely seen or beautiful girls that work. Steaks are mostly doing something indoors. It kinda hurts. America the beautiful loves to buy whores. What's more, we haven't anything to supplement our time for. So before 5 million used to have to employ 10 million Americans to move to the USA like a ploy. And gangsters will find a way, and they still will. But American women, it's like take your fill. They're not all that good. People prefer a more European build. And me,
across
somewhere new.
America, from the streets of Los Angeles to the sidewalks of New York City, people are living in conditions that most would think unimaginable in such an affluent society. On any given night, more than 500,000 Americans are homeless. They sleep on sidewalks, in parks, in cars, or under the protection of bridges. They are often forgotten, pushed to the margins of society, and treated as invisible. The homelessness crisis is not a new phenomenon, but it has worsened significantly in recent decades. Historically, homelessness was tied to the cycles of poverty, economic recession, and periods of high unemployment. However, what we are witnessing today is something different. A perfect storm of factors coming together to create a nationwide crisis. Despite America's vast resources,
it's one of the most beautiful places God ever drew. Maybe it's not Italy, but dude, it's nice. I think about it before. There's the people living right, and it's cool. We kicked them off to say we're gonna use this land to build stuff. Okay. But it's Popeyes and Wendy's, Builder Square, Chick-fil-A, and no one seems to much care. Modest Mouse made a video where they didn't agree with the corporate vision, strip mall in the country, but it was done. For the ones that brought it in, it's no fun. I think there's nothing stopping Chinese government to print money and buying into our Olive Gardens and everything. Even the news, it seems, it might be Israel too. I was trying to illustrate the Jew. In the hood, I found people inept to make a solution where the electric bill was due. They found a way to hook up the electric back on anyway. Reminds me, as a kid, dude, invite me over. I wanted to stay home, but mom says it'll be fun, and sure enough, they owned cable. It was news to me. You could watch Zorro after DuckTales, but I didn't make a peep. Even when I seen Rugrats on the weekend, we even stayed up to watch Nick at Night. Finally, I got cable one night. I had MTV for like 6 months, right? Even had a sleepover where we watched Snick too. But next time Saturday night was Tales from the Crypt, dude. SNL or Mad TV too. I felt the regular channels were better, my dude. I didn't even much watch these. Go out trying to find trees and get girls before they were fiends. And I was at Easton. First time, I got this girl number and we were gonna go out, right? My dad insisted I stay in. I guess that was about when they started taking them as a punishment. Like, you shouldn't have begun to talk to a Jew. Now there's a whole crew forcing you to work for them. I don't know, and I don't pretend to not care, though I remember it set precedent there. My dad goes, please do me a favor and don't go out this one night. My body rebelled the same way for all these years, right? I needed her for myself, but I trusted my people and let them win, being of a dutiful disposition, and I never talked to her again. It's like a pilgrimage of anything right, true, and divine, I guess, though. Make them fall in line. Maybe it seemed like I was in on it, I find. Just once, you sell your body for a fee, and you'll probably do it all the time, see? Watch that movie with Demi and Woody. I'm happy for other people that they get to enjoy. Never really cared to take people for more. I mean, I wanted to, but I used some kind of restraint, knowing I don't understand how to behave. Though no one else had really figured out how, they kind of made it up while I'm looking for the right way. And now we let weak shit slide, and the fuckers breathing down my neck my whole life. Might be a good thing. I guess I'm still living right. I remember there was one Jew who had a box that'd give you all the channels too for $300. Wasn't about what's right, because somebody else bought a fucking hack satellite and had 700 channels from all over the world, full size. But at the time, I couldn't care less about TV, and what we wanted, it was girls, and it was easy. Decided it's a dirty game. My mind frame was still ill-suited to the natures of the divine. I was still trying to find something that aligns, but came to find the Patriots Act made life reality TV, in fact.
Everybody goes south. They say, we'll be disruptive. I said, for how long? I finally got them up for 12 to 15 years, and I said, well, how does it stop being disruptive? And that is when their jobs come up from $1 an hour to $6 an hour, and ours go down to $6 an hour, then it's leveled again. But in the meantime, you've wrecked the country with these kinds of deals. We've got to cut it out.
Thank you, Mr. Perot. I see that the president has stood up, so he must have something to say about this.
Carol, the thing that saved us in this global economic slowdown has been our exports. And what I'm trying to do is increase our exports. And if indeed all the jobs were going to move south because they're lower wages now, and they haven't done that. And so I have just negotiated with the President of Mexico the North American Free Trade Agreement, and the Prime Minister of Canada, I might add. And I want to have more of these free trade agreements, because export jobs are increasing far faster than any jobs that may have moved overseas. That's a scare tactic, because it's not that many. But anyone that's here, we want to have more jobs here. And the way to do that is to increase our exports. Some believe in protection. I don't. I believe in free and fair trade, and that's the thing that saved us. And so I will keep on as president trying to get a successful conclusion to the GATT round, the big Uruguay round of trade, which will really open up markets for our agriculture particularly. I want to continue to work after we get this NAFTA agreement ratified this coming year. I want to get one with Eastern Europe. I want to get one with Chile. And free and fair trade is the answer, not protection. And as I say, we've had tough economic times, and it's exports that have saved us, exports that have built.
Governor Clinton.
I'd like to answer the question because I've actually been a governor for 12 years, so I've known a lot of people who've lost their jobs because of jobs moving overseas, and I know a lot of people whose plants have been strengthened by increasing exports. The trick is to expand our export base and to expand trade on terms that are fair to us. It is true that our exports to Mexico, for example, have gone up and our trade deficit's gone down. It's also true that just today a record high trade deficit was announced with Japan. So what is the answer? Let me just mention three things very quickly. Number one, make sure that other countries are as open to our markets as our markets are to them. And if they're not, have measures on the books that don't take forever and a day to implement. Number two, change the tax code. There are more deductions in the tax code for shutting plants down and moving them overseas than there are for modernizing plant and equipment here. Our competitors don't do that. Emphasize and subsidize modernizing plant and equipment here, not moving plants overseas. Number three, stop the federal government's program that now gives low-interest loans and job training funds to companies that will actually shut down and move to other countries, but we won't do the same thing for plants that stay here. So more trade, but on fair terms, and favor investment in America.
Thank you. I think
We're supposed to put it down. Porno, if you're any good at serving wood. We got this KFC porn state. I'm looking at the natives we pushed away. Like dead. For this, I see Americans that always held on before when became poor, like it was 2012. And the same thing was happening. What's more, I delve into secret society that wants things to be better for themselves. There's probably many, but only some are pushing doorbells. Jehovah's Witness put in the work to expand the plan because they don't have any other way to shirk. Have you met your Messiah? It's my religion to convert people to our way. It's a rich man's dream. And in a way, to be profiting off of the work of another. Maybe someone do the same with a biker gang. Go bring us some recruits. Obviously, I have no idea what I'm into. I try to figure out the life I'm in. There was a time I wrote about devolution and found a funny way to say, apparently, the government wanted from me. It's the gas companies who had technology for 100 years, but they won't let us lower pollution, and it's confusing everything, even messed up our designs. Cars aren't getting cooler now, I find. They were getting worse around that time. I told Nissan they fucked up the Maximus roof. That's when I made my biggest goof. Said, who's this Elon guy that's building electric cars? Made in America, we thought he was like a star. I wanted to work for him, was what I felt before. But I found if you take the pre-made way, there's always something that's fucked up about it, and they won't let you get away with fixing nothing or making anything good. Started in the way George W. made a campaign and his VP was Dick Cheney. Cheney had a gang that made ammunition, guns, and everything. They started these hedge funds like Invest in America and you'll be blessed. Sally Mae, better off soon because you know that whatever they're up to, you'll probably profit off it. Don't have to think of anything to do. Just collect dividends until you're into it too. Then it's like, fuck it, they're blowing up Afghanistan and the UN is just saying nothing. Hold up, stop, wait. The song started off. I remember hearing Clinton in a debate. I liken it to when we would watch Tyson fighting in the ring, but he spake the finesse. He was like
The deficit is my question is about the deficit. Would you define in specific dollar goals how much you would reduce the deficit in each of the 4 years of a Clinton administration, and then enter into a legally binding contract with the American people that if you did not achieve those goals, that you would not seek a second term? Answer yes or no, and then comment on your answer, please.
No, and here's why. And I'll tell you exactly why. Because the deficit now has been building up for 12 years. I'll tell you exactly what I think can be done. I think we can bring it down by 50% in 4 years and grow the economy. Now, I could get rid of it in 4 years in theory, on the books now, but to do it, you'd have to raise taxes too much and cut benefits too much to people who need them, and it would even make the economy worse. Mr. Perot will tell you, for example, that the expert he hired to analyze his plan says that it will bring the deficit down in 5 years, but it will make unemployment bad for 4 more years. So my view is, sir, you have to increase investment, grow the economy, and reduce the deficit by controlling health care costs, prudent reductions in defense, cuts in domestic programs, and asking the wealthiest Americans and foreign corporations to pay their fair share of taxes, and investing and growing this economy. I ask everybody to look at my economic ideas, 9 Nobel Prize winners and over 500 economists and hundreds of business people, including a lot of Republicans, said, this is the way you got to go. If you don't grow the economy, you can't get it done. But I can't foresee all the things that will happen, and I don't think a president should be judged solely on the deficit. Let me also say, we're having an election today. You'll have a shot at me in 4 years, and you can vote me right out if you think I've done a lousy job. And I would welcome you to do that.
Mr.
Charisma champion of our time, and he won those debates, and we found him president of our country, and yours and mine. And 95 was a good time to be alive. Bill Gates had these computers that get you online, and the internet was something that could not be accepted. So they really tried to make it fun, but it was kind of neglected. I mean, I don't think, that's why I didn't think TV was all that special. But it could have never taken off. Something like Laserdisc, but it did. And we experienced the big boom, or hum. And I realized presidents are all kind of freestyling it. No one really knows what you're supposed to do. In government, who knew that a free trade deal would allow other countries to profit off what's made here? One could argue. We got like 200,000 fans, and maybe we make like $8 off each one, but that's the Chinese government making about the same. And that's with everything. Your vacuum cleaner, your t-shirt, your fucking everything. They're getting a piece of. One could argue the policies directly affected Walmart, the largest business you ever saw, that's headquartered was in Arkansas, and we'd all use slave labor. Who would have thought? We had a surplus, might have bought our way out of debt. Al Gore got slept on. Pop said it was the medical companies that brought up Monica Lewinsky. Couldn't really take him seriously after that. In fact, it was kind of a Pinsky. His wife that stood by him would somehow be the commander-in-chief. It's a terrible thing to bequeath on women as far as precedence goes. So after Bush and Cheney had ravaged the country in 8 years, this guy Obama steers us in the Clinton direction. But I don't want to neglect to mention that it was a one world order's intention to bring it to your attention. You can't just listen to what a man say. Yeah, he talked a good game, though he bailed out the banks and the big corporations while things got worse for the middle class, especially urban people living in the hoods. Instead of working on the economy, he spent billions on spreading the gay. And even during the recession, things were relatively good, you say. People were looking for a cause to fight over. Just fight for the gays, especially women, and somehow it became trend A's, and your child's right to a sex change. Personally, I feel it's plastic surgeons to blame, and the ones who stay way above funding and playing both sides like BlackRock, No Love, just furthering the agenda and using America's great wealth and not using America's great wealth to produce a better life.
You stuttering prick, yeah. Hey, Spider, on your way over here, bring me a cutting water, huh? I'm good.
Did you guys eat?
I'm starving. I want some change.
I thought you guys came off before.
I'll play these.
What? Play those.
Like fucking stutter, I'll play it.
Okay, you get big.
What am I, a mirage?
What?
What? Where's my fucking drink? I asked you for a drink.
You wanted a drink?
I just asked you for a fucking drink.
No, I thought you said that you were all right, Spider.
No. What do you got me on a fucking pay no mind list, kid?
No,
You little
because
fucking
I thought I heard someone say something. Spider. I thought it was Henry.
No, you're a fucking mumbling, stuttering little fuck. You know that?
No, I thought you said I was all right, Spider. So.
No, you ain't all right, Spider. You got a lot of fucking problems.
No, I thought you said you were all right, Spider.
I am all right. You ain't all right, you little fucking prick.
I thought I am.
You've been doing this all fucking night to me, you motherfucker.
You want the drink now? Okay, I'll bring it for you.
Yeah, well, give me a fucking drink. Move it, you little prick. You walk like fucking stepping fetch. You're hiding. Everybody else, you'll fucking run. Run for me, you prick. Dance. Dance the fucking drink back here. Hello, prick. Hey, what's that movie that Bogart made?
Which one?
The one where he played a cowboy. Only did one.
The Oklahoma Kid.
Shane?
Oklahoma Kid. Shane. Oklahoma Kid. That's me. I'm the Oklahoma Kid. You fucking Barbie. Dance. Dance. Yahoo, you motherfucker. Come on. Come on, you. Dance, you little prick. Now he's moving. He's making
Henry, what happened?
He's got him in the foot, Tommy. He's fucking doctor. All right, so he got shot in the foot. What is it, a big fucking deal? Vito, get a towel.
Nice fucking game.
Life and health for the American people. It's felt that China's centralized system is pay out endemic democracy, right? We hadn't beat 10 to 1 as far as advantage goes. The economy has grown 20 times while ours has simply doubled, because instead of building a Shanghai or Dubai that will provide millions of American jobs for you and I, they wasted it on providing gay international services. Basically, someone's just having a good time. Not to mention Iraq, Afghanistan. Cheney was commissioned to destroy it and build it back, while stealing as much as he could. In fact, $2 trillion could have built so much. And $3 trillion in Iraq, what the fuck? The government bailouts are approaching $1 trillion. Plus factor in the U.S. aid, hundreds of millions spent on transgender causes. But the fact remains, under Trump's watch, the scamdemic started off wasting around $25 trillion on stupid stuff. Hundreds of billions wasted in PPP, stupid vaccine, tracing, about 1 billion tests, double unemployment, ventilators. The whole thing's a mess. Sure enough, we could have built the opposite in Vegas, somewhere exquisite. So, a city of arts and tourism might call it the best place you can visit, not the Arab Emirates, but the USA, and people who live in coal mine cities might find a way there and get a high-paying job instead of asking the government for an income. Hungry workers need lots to eat, and then some. So there'd have to be restaurants, and what I find is neat is that prosperity breeds my prosperity. Instead, women depend on rich people to provide them with ends. Men tend to get in the mix. We don't even see we're living in conditions fixed. Much like wartime poverty, it's sick. People just say, on some hustling shit, got just the bag, eh? America's prime output is whores and fags. Who you want to be? If you're not gay, it's obviously Nazi. And you're not about this gender-affirming bullshit, clearly. I wanted to tell people to stop. It's a psyop. People who bought the Teslas were trying to do the right thing. It's just fucked up because we didn't think ahead to see the power grid as fossil fuels, you see. The worse for the environment than gasoline. Primarily, less than 20% of our electricity comes from clean energy. So until most of our output is green, we really had no business making electric anything. Not to mention government subsidies per car, hundreds of millions, and making up electric charging infrastructure, and all that, and it didn't make a difference at all as far as environmental solution, just a whole lot more devolution. Waste our prosperity on causes that don't mean shit. Sure, people are pissed that he goes and tells people to be more efficient. What's the first thing to do? Make it a hate crime if they mess with you? Sounds pretty Jew, though it's trumping them too. What I go and do is lose everything through and through. Came to California, lady tries to come for me, helping hand. I didn't want company. And then the next day, man, there were 2 girls. The mothers don't worry about your daughters. They've always been safe with me, so be glad. Oh, you want to work? Well, how about the best job you ever had? And now I just found my eyewear on the ground. So sad.
I can. You got to hide behind.
I have actually not questioned Governor Bush's experience. I have questioned his proposals, and here's why. I think this is a very important moment for our country. We have achieved extraordinary prosperity, and in this election, America has to make an important choice. Will we use our prosperity to enrich not just the few, but all of our families? I believe we have to make the right and responsible choices. If I'm entrusted with the presidency, here are the choices that I will make. I'll balance the budget every year. I will pay down the national debt. I will put Medicare and Social Security in a lockbox and protect them. And I will cut taxes for middle-class families. I believe it's important to resist the temptation to squander our surplus. If we make the right choices, we can have a prosperity that endures and enriches all of our people. If I'm entrusted with the presidency, I will help parents and strengthen families. Because, you know, if we have prosperity that grows and grows, we still won't be successful unless we strengthen families. By, for example, ensuring that children can always go to schools that are safe. By giving parents the tools to protect their children against cultural pollution. I will make sure that we invest in our country and our families. And I mean investing in education, healthcare, the environment, and middle-class tax cuts and retirement security. That's my agenda, and that's why I think that it's not just a question of experience.
Governor Bush, 1 minute rebuttal.
Well, we do come from different places. I come from West Texas. I've been a governor. The governor is the chief executive officer and learns how to set agendas. And I think you're going to find the difference reflected in our budgets. I want to take 1/2 of the surplus and dedicate it to Social Security, 1/4 of the surplus for important projects, and I want to send 1/4 of the surplus back to the people who pay the bills. I want everybody who pays taxes to have their tax rates cut. Now that stands in contrast to my worthy opponent's plan, which will increase the size of government dramatically. His plan is 3 times larger than President Clinton's proposed plan 8 years ago. It's a plan that will have 200 new programs as well, or expanded programs. It'll create 20,000 new bureaucrats. In other words, it empowers Washington. And tonight you're going to hear that my passion and my vision is to empower Americans to be able to make decisions for themselves in their own lives.
So I take it by your answer then, Mr. Vice President, that in your an interview recently with the New York Times, when you said that you questioned whether or not Governor Bush was experienced enough to be president, you were talking about strictly policy differences.
Yes, Jim. I said that his tax cut plan, for example, raises the question of whether it's the right choice for the country. And let me give you an example of what I mean. Under Governor Bush's tax cut proposal, he would spend more money on tax cuts for the wealthiest 1% than all of the new spending that he proposes for education, health care, prescription drugs, and national defense all combined. Now, I think those are the wrong priorities. Now, under my proposal, for every dollar that I propose in spending for things like education and health care, I will put another dollar into middle-class tax cuts. And for every dollar that I spend in those two categories, I'll put $2 toward paying down the national debt. I think it's very important to keep the debt going down and completely eliminate it. And I also think it's very important to go to the next stage of welfare reform. Our country has cut the welfare rolls in half. I've fought hard from my days in the Senate and as Vice President to cut the welfare rolls, and we've moved millions of people in America into good jobs. But it's now time for the next stage of welfare reform and include fathers and not only mothers.
We're going to get to a lot of those. Yes, go ahead, Governor.
Well, let me just say that obviously tonight we're going to hear some phony numbers about what I think and what we ought to do. People need to know that over the next 10 years there's going to be $25 trillion of revenue that comes into our treasury. We anticipate spending $21 trillion. And my plan says, why don't we pass $1.3 trillion of that back to the people who pay the bills? Surely we can afford 5% of the $25 trillion that are coming to the treasury to the hardworking people who pay the bills. There's a difference of opinion. My opponent thinks the government, the surplus is the government's money. That's not what I think. I think it's the hardworking people in America's money, and I want to share some of that money with you. So you've got more money to build and save and dream for your families. It's a difference of opinion. It's the difference between government making decisions for you and you getting more of your money to make decisions for yourself.
Jim?
So let me just follow up one quick question. When you hear Vice President Gore question your experience, do you read it the same way, that he's talking about policy differences only?
Yes. I take him for his word. I mean, I fully recognize I'm not of Washington. I'm from Texas. And he's got a lot of experience, but so do I. And I've been the chief executive officer of the second biggest state in the union. I've had a proud record of working with both Republicans and Democrats, which is what our nation needs. We need somebody who can come up to Washington and say, look, let's forget all the politics and all the finger pointing and get some positive things done on Medicare and prescription drugs and Social Security. And so I take him for his word.
Jim, if I could just
quick,
respond.
And we need to move on. Yes, sir.
I know that the governor used the phrase phony numbers, but if you look at the plan and add the numbers up, these numbers are correct. He spends more money for tax cuts for the wealthiest 1% than all of his new spending proposals for health care, prescription drugs, education.
audience here in the hall has promised to remain silent. No cheers, no applause, no noise of any kind, except right now as we welcome Senators Obama and McCain. Let me begin with something General Eisenhower said in his 1952 presidential campaign. Quote, "We must achieve both security and solvency. In fact, the foundation of military strength is economic strength," end quote. With that in mind, the first lead question. Gentlemen, at this very moment tonight, where do you stand on the financial recovery plan? First response to you, Senator Obama, you have 2 minutes.
Well, thank you very much, Jim, and thanks to the Commission and the University of Mississippi Ole Miss for hosting us tonight. I can't think of a more important time for us to talk about the future of the country. We are at a defining moment in our history. Our nation is involved in 2 wars, and we are going through the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. And although we've heard a lot about Wall Street, those of you on Main Street, I think, have been struggling for a while, and you recognize that this could have an impact on all sectors of the economy. And you're wondering, how's it going to affect me? How's it going to affect my job? How's it going to affect my house? How's it going to affect my retirement savings or my ability to send my children to college? So we have to move swiftly, and we have to move wisely. And I've put forward a series of proposals that make sure that we protect taxpayers as we engage in this important rescue effort. Number one, we've got to make sure that we've got oversight over this whole process. $700 billion potentially is a lot of money. Number two, we've got to make sure that taxpayers, when they are putting their money at risk, have the possibility of getting that money back and gains if the market and when the market returns. Number three, we've got to make sure that none of that money is going to pad CEO bank accounts or to promote golden parachutes. And number four, we've got to make sure that we're helping homeowners, because the root problem here has to do with the foreclosures that are taking place all across the country. Now, we also have to recognize that this is a final verdict on 8 years of failed economic policies promoted by George Bush, supported by Senator McCain. A theory that basically says that we can shred regulations and consumer protections and give more and more to the most, and somehow prosperity will trickle down. It hasn't worked. And I think that the fundamentals of the economy have to be measured by whether or not the middle class is getting a fair shake. That's why I'm running for president. That's what I hope we're going to be talking about tonight.
Senator McCain, 2 minutes.
Well, thank you, Jim, and thanks to everybody. And I do have a sad note tonight. Senator Kennedy is in the hospital. His dear and beloved friend to all of us. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the Lion of the Senate. I also want to thank the University of Mississippi for hosting us tonight. And Jim, I've been not feeling too great about a lot of things lately, so have a lot of Americans who are facing challenges. But I'm feeling a little better tonight, and I'll tell you why. Because as we're here tonight in this debate, we are seeing, for the first time in a long time, Republicans and Democrats together sitting down, trying to work out a solution to this fiscal crisis that we're in. You have no doubt about the magnitude of this crisis. And we're not talking about failure of institutions on Wall Street. We're talking about failures on Main Street and people who will lose their jobs and their credits and their homes if we don't fix the greatest fiscal crisis probably, certainly in our time. And I've been around a little while. But the point is, we have finally seen Republicans and Democrats sitting down and negotiating together and coming up with a package. This package has transparency in it. It has to have accountability and oversight. It has to have options for loans to failing businesses rather than the government taking over those loans. It has to have a package with a number of other essential elements to it. And yes, I went back to Washington And I met with my Republicans in the House of Representatives, and they weren't part of the negotiations, and I understand that. And it was the House Republicans that decided that they would be part of the solution of this problem. But I want to emphasize one point to all Americans tonight. This isn't the beginning of the end of this crisis. This is the end of the beginning if we come out with a package that will keep these institutions stable. And we've got a lot of work to do. We've got to create jobs. And one of the areas, of course, is to eliminate our dependence on foreign oil.
All right, let's go back to my question, how you all stand on the recovery plan, and talk to each other about it. What do we got 5 minutes. We can negotiate a deal right here. But I mean, do you favor this plan, Senator Obama, and you, Senator McCain? Are you in favor of this plan?
We haven't seen the language yet. And I do think that there's constructive work being done out there. So for the viewers who are watching, I am optimistic about the capacity of us to come together with a plan. The question I think that we have to ask ourselves is, how did we get into this situation in the first place? 2 years ago, I warned that because of the subprime lending mess, because of the lax regulation, that we were potentially going to have a problem, and tried to stop some of the abuses and mortgages that were taking place at the time. Last year, I wrote to the Secretary of the Treasury to make sure that he understood the magnitude of this problem and to call on him to bring all the stakeholders together to try to deal with it. So the question I think that we've got to ask ourselves is, yes, we've got to solve this problem short term, and we are going to have to intervene. There's no doubt about that, but we're also going to have to look at how is it that we shredded so many regulations. We did not set up a 21st century regulatory framework to deal with these problems, and that in part has to do with an economic philosophy that says that regulation is always bad.
Are you going to vote for the plan, Senator?
I hope so.
As the United States Senator, you're going to vote for the plan?
Sure, but let me point out, I also warned about Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and warned about corporate greed and excess and CEO pay and all that. A lot of us saw this train wreck coming. But there's also the issue of responsibility. You mentioned President Dwight David Eisenhower. President Eisenhower, on the night before the Normandy invasion, went into his room and he wrote out 2 letters. One of them was a letter congratulating the great members of the military and allies that had conducted and succeeded the greatest invasion in history, still to this day and forever. And he wrote out another letter, and that was a letter of resignation in the United States Army for the failure of the landings at Normandy. Somehow, we've lost that accountability. I've been heavily criticized because I called for the resignation of the chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission. We've got to start also holding people accountable, and we've got to reward people who succeed. But somehow in Washington today, and I'm afraid on Wall Street, greed is rewarded, excess is rewarded, and corruption, or certainly failure to carry out our responsibilities, is rewarded. As President of the United States, people are going to be held accountable in my administration, and I promise you that'll happen.
Do you have something directly to say, Senator Obama?